much for coming out tonight. It's just incredible to see everyone lined along the road, banging their saucepans and shouting for Palestine and for the people who we're thinking of there.
I found myself in a parallel universe this week when I discovered that I was agreeing with Tory MP Kit Malthouse as he stood in the Commons with incredulity.
I'm frankly astonished at the statement of the Foreign Secretary. At a time when we've got daily lynchings and expulsions on the West Bank, dozens being murdered as they beg for aid, I'm just beyond words, really, at his inaction and, frankly, complicity by inaction at what is going on. He himself said there's a massive prison camp being constructed in the south of Gaza. He knows that leading genocide scholars from across the world now are ringing the alarm bells, and yet he has the temerity to show up to this house and wave his chequebook as if it's going to salve his conscience. Can he not see that his inaction and, frankly, cowardice is making this country irrelevant? Can he also not see the personal risk to him, given our international obligations, that he may end up at The Hague because of his inaction? And finally, really frankly, an appeal to the Labour backbenchers. We can't get your leadership to change their minds. Only you can.
Looking at David Lammy, he could barely find the words to describe. Was Lammy unwilling? I suspect yes. Or just unable to realise how close he is to ending up in The Hague, complicit with war crimes. Every day in my kitchen, I look at this calendar. It's drawings from children in Gaza, from the Hope and Play organisation. And I look and I think, is that child still alive? Or have they been shot or starved? I'm not standing here as an activist. I stand here as a mum and a human who cannot bear to think that we would sit idly by while genocide occurs before our very eyes. And I'm so pleased to see so many of you here who feel the same, drawing strength from each other as we watch the horrors unfold and we think of those families, of those children are being used as target practice. What did the IDF say?
Israel has blamed a technical error for a strike on a water distribution point in Gaza, which killed 10 people, including 6 children.
They'd come to find water in a land starved of resources. Eyewitnesses said an Israeli drone had fired at the crowd.
They are deliberately targeting boys the age of my son. And what happens to them when they're taken to hospital? Their wounds do not heal because they are starving. This is a war crime. And we have to stand in solidarity and repeat forever until they stop that this is genocide.
Many people here today went to Havant, the place where Lockheed Martin is making parts for the F-35 bomber, which is killing people in Gaza. And as health workers, we laid flowers and we took a card to appeal to the workers at Havant. I don't believe for 1 minute that ordinary workers want to spend their lives making bombs to kill other people just like them. I don't believe it. And we have got to go back to Havant, and we've got to go back to the arms factories. Because what we know is that Keir Starmer isn't for turning. We have to make him turn. And the way that we can do it is by those armed workers and also those civil servants who sign off these illegal weapons exporting, things they have to sign off to export weapons. As a health worker, I want to pay tribute to health workers in Gaza because they have stayed with their patients at the risk of their own life. It is extremely unusual that health workers have been targeted. Hospitals have been targeted systematically. 1,500 health workers in Gaza have been killed. That's the equivalent to 45,000 health workers in the UK being killed. The Israeli army has gone into hospitals and it has actually taken health workers and arrested them and imprisoned them and tortured them. We know that unless the phone of one of the paramedics had been found with the footage on it, where he filmed the death of himself and others, that would have never come to the knowledge of the world. The Israeli army denied that they killed in cold blood paramedics trying to rescue people. But what is, to reach new lows, we had 8 weeks of blockade and starvation. And then we've actually seen British doctors reporting that when Palestinian children and men and women go to the food queues to try to get food, they are shooting each day at a different body part. They're making fun out of killing. They're targeting one day people's heads, another day people's chests, and one day boys' testicles. I mean, this is a kind of, it's beyond disgrace. They're reaching proportions in which I don't think there are words to describe their inhumanity. And I think that's why, although we all feel that whatever we do is not enough, that's why we're here, because we have to keep going. We don't have the luxury of feeling sad, of crying. We have to stand in solidarity and hold our tears and keep our pressure on these disgraceful leaders. It's very good that Macron has finally agreed to recognise Palestine. It's even better that actually French dockers in Marseille refused to load arms onto a ship in Marseille. And this is what's possible. This is what's possible. We know that, ordinary people, whether they're in Palestine or Britain or France, we've got the same blood, the same bones, the same wants, the same needs. And we must stand together because they are our family. Free, free Palestine.
Thank you to everyone who's spoken such powerful words this evening, and thank you not least to every single one of you who's turned up today alongside the thousands upon thousands in London and in towns and cities across the country who've turned out. I was brought up in a family who my parents thought they were looking after the horrors of the Holocaust. They were looking forward to a world, not free of horror, not free of war, not free of racism, but a world that could rise up in the future and start to bury those horrors in the past. There's part of me that wishes they were here by my side today, and there's part of me that is very glad that they are not. Because although, like I think all of us, I wrench with grief every time I see an image on a front page or on social media or on Al Jazeera, I also rack with rage. Across Britain, we're seeing a wave of protest after 22 months of genocide. The skeletal images of forced starvation have now reached, finally, the front pages. David Lammy and Keir Starmer forced, finally, to condemn. They say they have done what they can. They're lying. They continue to supply the parts of the F-35s that the IDF are using in their mass slaughter. They refused to impose sanctions. And last week, just last week, Israel's Air Force chief, the man who approves the strikes on the hospitals, on the shelters, on the food queues, was hosted, not arrested, hosted by the RAF. Our government, our political leaders are complicit. The BBC is complicit.
To begin with, the BBC scarcely reported the genocidal comments made by the most senior Israeli politicians, including, never apparently, according to this report, the Amalek remarks, the genocidal remarks of Netanyahu. So you never educated your audience about the genocidal remarks, and according to this report, on 100 occasions, you've closed down references to genocide by your guests. This makes you complicit, my lord.
The mainstream media is complicit. And as we keep those horrific images in our minds today, as a concentration camp is set up on the ruins of Rafah, let's not forget the history of settler colonial genocide. It was the British who set up concentration camps in the Boer War. Lord Kitchener oversaw it. 26,000 Afrikaners perished. What's often not noted is the 116,000 black Africans interned in those camps, 10% of whom died, 80% of them children. The 74% of those who were herded into the concentration camps of the German Empire during the Hararo and Nama genocide, 110,000 died. French Algiers, 2 million Algerians, so-called internally displaced, into concentration camps. Hundreds of thousands perished. Over 1 million died in total. And all of these, to now the latest horror, died of deliberate starvation, malnutrition, disease, scorched earth, destruction of crops, blocking of water supplies. And yes, who cannot shudder? Who cannot shudder at how the images we see today send echoes of Bergen-Belsen and the camps of the Nazi Holocaust? Genocide is the physical destruction of a people in whole or in part, and the physical destruction of the means of life and the expression of their existence. It's deliberate, it's planned with all the machinery of a modern state. And Israel's genocide is backed by the states responsible by the genocides of the past, of the genocides of history. And what's their response? To try and vilify and repress the movement. And today the United Nations Human Rights Chief, Volker Turk, has accused the UK of being in breach of its obligations under international human rights law. I've had enough. I've had enough of the genocide. I've had enough of all the politics of reaction that go with it. I've had enough of fascists rampaging outside hostels of refugees fleeing our government's wars, all fueled by Starmer and the Labour leadership. And I hope people go, by the way, to defend the hostel in Bournemouth on the 9th of August against the fascists who are threatening it on that day. We've built a movement over Palestine. We need to fight, as everyone has said, for the cause of Palestinian freedom. but we need to fight on all fronts. And I want to see a movement that moves from mass protest to mass revolt. Palestinians have the right to resist apartheid and occupation, and we have the right to support them and oppose the attacks on our movement and on the right to protest. Free, free!
And here I am again, arguing with the Zionist I conjured in my head, repeating over and over that this all started in 1948, that no law or legislation should state that one child deserves death and starvation. Here in my mind I'm arguing with an invisible opponent, as if the debate could undo the damage or bring breath back to a crushed chest of a child. As sunlight spills creeping in through the green leaves, a soft and golden hue on the concrete, bird songs whisper through the fields, and bees hum their quiet lullabies. To me, it's just a normal day, a day which I fear I take for granted. But in my mind there is war. I teach and I preach, casting words into the void, a tangled web of thoughts looping back, whispering to themselves like ghosts. No child deserves to pick up scattered remains of their shredded siblings. No child deserves to be left alone under piles of concrete of their once stood home. I shuffle the music, skip the sad songs, make it loud as if violins could beat back grief. Erase the image of infants starving from being denied access to milk, as if piano and guitar could drown out parents' screams for their young as they press their faces on sharp edges of concrete walls. The sound I've never even heard, the whistles of missiles, the sudden silence that follows. I open my phone, hoping to lose myself in the created chaos of my feed. But there a boy whose face will be engraved into my soul, his face coated in ash, his eyes frozen forever open, blood trickling down his face, his eyes looking afar, as if he were still watching the birds in the sky, still waiting for his mother's hand. Perhaps he is looking up at the angel of death. His face is carried with grief, but not for the young boy, but grief for our souls, those who simply watched and dared not to intervene. His ribs are paper thin beneath dust-covered skin, his last breath caught in a whirl too loud to hear it, a gasp for air, so desperate, so gentle. I scroll, a cat in the tree, laughter erupts as firefighters lift it down, a family gathers, tears streaming in joy. Just above that, a child's body is laid on a metal car, the cage wide digging deep into the skin, white paint chipping away, leaving me to wonder how many bodies were rescued on that very car with desperate attempt to save their lives. And I think about the child's body laid on that metal car, no warmth around him, no arms to hold him, no rescue, no tears. Perhaps the world just cried too much, or maybe not enough. The contrast splits me open, quiet morning and their endless night. My morning coffee still warm in my shaking hands, while his blood stains the rubble cooling down as it drips on the sand. I pass it, I scroll away. We all have passed it and we all scrolled away. Another story, another swipe, another image swallowed by our desensitized minds. How easy it has become to forget that silence can scream, to turn away from the horror just beyond the screen. But when I close my eyes, he's still there. He's staring through me, as if asking why I kept walking in that park, while his world burned to ash and crumbled so easily right beneath our sight. Thank you.